Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes. Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and joining me tonight is a writer, an artist, a colorist, a letterer. He even puts the staples in the middle of the book. It is the ultra talented. It's Mr. Josh Hicks. Josh,
Thank you
how's
very
it
much.
going?
Good, yeah. Lovely to be here.
Excellent, excellent. It's a rare treat. A Welshman when there's a snooker game on with a Welshman in it. Are you sure you don't want to, fly the flags at the time recording, or is snooker not your thing?
I didn't even know. Yeah, go on. Go snooker.
Snooker.
You'll win. You'll win. Is it
He's five. He's five. Yeah. Jack Jones is 5'4" at the time of recording. There you go.
Nice.
Keep him alive. BBC, you owe me a link. Just saying. Josh, so great to have you on the show, man. You're here to talk about your book, your new book. It's got a name that I've got to say I took a couple of swipes at, and I'm not even sure I've got it right even then. Is it
Give it a crack.
Hotelier, is that it?
Yeah, perfect. Just got to go with your instinct.
Yeah. Go with the vowels and hope for the best. That's how I play countdown. So what's the book about? Let's have a look.
The book is a sci-fi comedy about a giant robot that is also a hotel. So the staff and guests of Hotelier find themselves stranded in deep space after like a giant alien attacks the space colony that it's situated on, and they all have to kind of band together to try and get back home before they all kill each other.
So sci-fi comedy. So it sounds like an episode of Doctor Who meets The Shining, meets Transformers.
Yeah.
And then let's see just what happens.
Yeah, and Lord of the Flies, they all make their own little society, and there's factions. Yeah.
Right. Don't talk to them on the 13th floor.
Yeah.
Don't talk to the cleaners. What is it that was the inspiration for this book? Please tell me it's all the really dodgy hotels you've been in your life.
It's similar. It's all the dodgy jobs I've had in my life. I've been lucky, like the last 10 years, I've been working in comics and animation and stuff. But before that, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I did a lot of jobs in a short period of time. And when I came to start writing the book, I kind of wanted to write a little bit about that, like late teen, early 20s time in my life. Only vaguely, it's mainly about aliens getting punched by a big robot. But I wanted to put a little bit of that stuff in there, and that's kind of the crux of the book.
So it's an interesting premise. I mentioned Doctor Who. I mean, we've seen like races live inside robots before. I think there's a couple of Doctor Who episodes that have that sort of premise. You've also got things like what was I going to think of there? Inside Out, a little bit. The Disney movie where it's the emotions that kind of
all those guys in the Beano.
Yeah,
I remember their names. Yeah. Those guys.
Those guys, the Beano. And people go and scratch their head and go, "What's the Beano?" Go Google it.
Yeah.
Go on.
It's like Freddy's brain or something. But yeah.
Who remembers such things? So the idea, it just I see like little, as you say, bits of inspiration left, right, and center. But then I kind of think to myself, how did you manage to just like pull it all together? Is it the jobs that you've had in the past just suit that kind of hotel experience, or was it just random things that you thought, where can they all exist or coexist or can't even coexist?
Yeah, it's kind of like I thought this. Well, I did have a friend who worked at a hotel while I was doing those odd jobs, and so I've stolen a lot of hotel stuff from him. So that is probably why it was kind of specific. And there's a character that looks like him. I'm not going to say which one, but he was a personal trainer, so you can probably guess if you read the book.
Let's have a look. See on the cover. Which one could it be?
Yeah, it's one of those ones on the front. I won't say which one. So that was a start, and then I drew a you know, like they always talk about how the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came from like them just drawing stupid pictures of turtles together while they were watching TV. I drew a big hotel robot once for no real reason, and it just sat in the corner of my room for a while. And then as I was finishing up my previous book, I was looking at it and kind of having these ideas about maybe what I'd want to write next, and it all started to come together from there essentially. And it was a good chance to like combine stuff that I normally do in comics, which is a lot of characters kind of bickering and not getting on and having to figure out ways to like live and work with each other, and also do stuff like with giant robots, which I've loved since I was a kid, and I've never really had a chance to like play in that world.
Power Rangers. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, Zords. Sorry, not giant robots.
The idea of people not getting along, especially for
Mm.
comedic purposes, is a trope that's been used many times. So things like Simpsons, Family Guy are probably the ones that kind of spring to mind. The ones where people kind of coexist, but there's always that outside impact that sort of like gets Homer all bent out of shape. I mean, does he still get bent out of shape nowadays? I would have thought he's a little bit too. The world's a little bit too soft for Homer to start strangling kids again. Is it? I don't know.
He gets bent out of shape in other ways.
Okay. I haven't seen The Simpsons for like the last 20
No,
years.
I assume that's the case. Otherwise, you haven't got a show.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Chilling. Yeah.
I can imagine Homer saying, "Why you? Have you have to go to therapy to talk about your feelings, Homer?" Not quite the same. So, what is it about the kind of conflicts that people have that make them so interesting, especially to us in the cheap seats viewing it?
Yeah, I always really like an ensemble comedy as well. I always like writing a lot of different characters and kind of seeing how they like bounce off each other and stuff. And if that's your remit and that's what you want to do, then it's not really that fun if they're all getting along all the time.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out a scenario or a situation where they get to be put under a little bit of pressure and get to play around with like how they would react under certain circumstances, weird mix-ups within the group, you know. So from my point of view, it's just like for my own pleasure as a writer, you know. But as a viewer as well, that's the kind of stuff I gravitate towards. Like I love with Nail and I, love The Lighthouse, just people trapped in a space, getting on each other's nerves. You know, that's my yeah. There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, I think comedy nowadays is a little bit too, or certain comedies, the mainstream stuff. I mean, Friends, Big Bang is always on the telly. Always. I mean, it's always on. And whilst there is friction between the group, it's always kind of like a kiss and make up thing, and they are all happy at the end of it and stuff. So it's interesting to see how things kind of devolve over a period of time. Aliens, space aliens. What is it? What are you against aliens, man? They're just doing the business, man. They're just going around the planet doing what they do.
Yeah, that's the point. Well, not to spoil the end of the book, but you know, you have got a point there. Says, yeah, there's as the book sort of goes forward, we unveil that there might be some like corporate conspiracy going on, and that maybe the people we thought were the bad guys weren't the bad guys after all.
Was it really Disney?
It's close.
Just so you know, you're not getting picked up for that animation project now. Sorry, man.
I actually can't go into it, but yeah.
Oh, hey. Let me just make a note.
Yeah, there we go. Take that one off. No, it's fine.
What was I going to say? So, I mentioned at the start of the show that you do absolutely everything with the book, apart from you mentioned a little bit of design work. Which do you find easier to do versus the hardest thing to do? Are you a writer first who tends to draw, or are you an artist who tends to write?
I think I'm probably a writer who tends to draw, but really it's more a case of like I can do a little bit of both. I don't know how successful I would be at like a standalone attempt at each thing, you know. Definitely in terms of like physical ease, writing is much easier than drawing. Like I wrote a full script for this, which I didn't do for my previous stuff. I used to just sort of draw on the fly and write little bits here and there. Full script, it took me a few months, and then the drawing took me like a year or more. You know, it takes a long time. But I probably would write, a comic script for somebody else, but I don't think I'd ever draw a comic that someone else wrote.
How do you stay disciplined then? Because if you're writing a comedy book or a book that has a lot of comedy in it, there are punchlines dotted throughout the book. How, for me, I'd be tempted. I'd be like, oh, I know what the punchline is. Oh, the punchline is great. Let's get to the punchline. And then I'd be stuck with like all the boring setup stuff. It's like when I draw for fun, I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination. But when I draw for fun, I'll always draw my figure like, oh, there's Spider-Man swinging. He never swings off anything because I get bored drawing buildings. He's just in the middle of this page. Yeah,
it's not far off. It's I don't really like drawing backgrounds. Like I have to, because I don't want to put out a book that doesn't have any backgrounds in it. But like, I also, I like the idea of drawing all the action sequences, and that was like a really good challenge.
Yeah.
But like, if you just told me just draw what like naturally occurs to you, it would just be loads of like heads just talking to each other. Like, so I had to really push myself out, to like flesh out the world with like some environments and some backgrounds that were a bit more ambitious than the stuff I'd done previously, and also like really did want to try this action stuff, even though it's not my like natural inclination. Yeah.
Watching plenty of Star Trek to get your inspiration, right?
I did watch a lot of Star Trek. Yeah. I used to hate Star Trek.
That's a bold statement.
I know. Well, my dad used to watch it all the time, and I used to wander in while he was watching it, and I just, because he liked it so much, I just thought it was boring. But my wife made me start watching it, and I love it so much. It was it was amazing. I couldn't get enough of it. We watched Measure of a Man, the TNG episode where he has to do like a court case to prove that data is like a life form.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah, that was the first one I ever properly watched, and then I was like hooked. So there was a lot of I watched a lot of that, and I watched a lot of original like 60s like Ultraman and Ultra 7.
Oh, yeah.
So they had the big robot, not robot, he's a giant like alien guy that fights other aliens, but also the team dynamic, which was really like comforting and cozy, that sort of stuff. I really liked.
It's interesting because we talk about Star Trek as being kind of like in the mix somewhere, especially the next gen. It is
that is
super,
my thing.
They're super friendly though, aren't they? In the next gen, they never ever argue. It's like, Captain, I think we're going to get destroyed, and Captain's like, yes, it's okay. And like, yes, okay, it is. Yes, it is. Where on Deep Space Nine, they're like, the coffee's cold, and then war breaks out because the coffee's cold. It's a different dynamic, and it's funny you mentioned the Measure of the Man. Where I was trying to sell my wife on the idea. My wife loves Doctor Who. Right? I'm doing this pod right now, and she's downstairs watching Doctor Who. So when I was saying you've got to watch Star Trek, one of the episodes I picked for her to watch was Measure of a Man. So watch this episode. This is kind of what Trek can be, and I made her watch the City on the Edge of Forever from classic Trek.
Yeah.
Joan Collins goes back in time. Again, a classic episode. Okay.
I accidentally ripped off a Doctor Who episode, like for the end of it. I won't say which one because I can't really remember which one. But I watched it afterwards, and because my wife loves Doctor Who as well, she made me watch that, and I like that as well. I didn't get on with it as much as I got on with Star Trek, but I did enjoy it. And there's an episode that's similar to the ending of this, but it was already done, so I washed my hands of it.
Yeah,
fine.
It's it's an interesting point you make, because I mean, Harrison Ford has allegedly quoted saying there are only seven stories in the world. So chances are you're going to hit like one of the beats somewhere.
But how many stories are there about a giant hotel robot?
Well, that's true. True, I'll give you that. That is unique. That is unique. I was trying to do some doodling myself for the superhero team that I'm putting together in my head, and I had an assassin, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool. I'm going to do this," and he's going to have a cool leather jacket, and then he's going to have like his holsters crossed across his waist. He's going to have like an eye and a mask, and then by the time I finished, I'd drawn the red hood. I was like, "I hate the red hood. How did that happen? How did that happen?"
Make it blue.
Oh, I was like, "Oh man." So I get it. It is. I mean, there's so much out there. Robots, sci-fi. You're bound to, you're bound to get into somebody else's orbit at some point. That's a true fact. How hard? You mentioned obviously you've got your friend, cameoed in the book. Cameoed, starring,
Yeah,
whichever.
yeah. I didn't ask him.
Yeah, yeah. We better not show the picture again, just in case you recognise him. Josh, have you something you want to tell me? Where's my rollies? How hard was it to flesh the other characters out? Because obviously for a team dynamic or an argument dynamic, you've got to have that kind of contrasting impacts.
Yeah, it wasn't super like a convoluted process. Like organically, I think the types of characters you want in a situation. So I knew I was going to write a little bit about the work stuff, so I kind of built our main characters who are like service level workers. I built those kind of around people I knew, or like the kinds of people that would be helpful in a story like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then the hotel setting suggested a lot of stuff. So there's a musician in residence who is like a six-armed alien who kind of accidentally starts a cult. I knew I wanted to do that straight away. I love like a tortured artist type character. So we've got like a guest who's a journalist who's upset that like his journalistic writing isn't getting the praise it should be getting. That's a
I
classic.
feel
I love
his
that
pain.
sort of thing.
I feel
Yeah,
his pain.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's stuck writing the newsletter. Like a chef who starts like a workers' uprising. That sounded like something you would need. And then bad bosses all the way around, So we've got like bad corporate overlords, bad shift managers, like who are like Jobsworths, the classic obstacles to a happy working environment, really.
It sounds like the Muppet Show on steroids, to be fair.
I do like, yeah, I love the Muppet Show.
I'm hitting all the influences here, aren't I?
Yeah.
It's like, Johnny, were you in this book? No. No. Let's have a look at some more art that you were kind enough to send across. Love stuff like this. I love how when you do something as out there, and I mean that as a compliment. When you do something as out there as a hotel robot, you need a little bit of extra padding to give the reader some understanding of what's going on, right? So stuff like this, normally you see in like trade paperbacks and things like that. I love this extra stuff.
Yeah, this is kind of like an adaptation of that first drawing of the hotel robot I did years and years and years ago. It looked different, but it was essentially the same concept where it would be it was a cutaway the first time, kind of more like how you see it on the cover, where it would be annotated and you'd get to see, a mix of like what kind of hardcore machinery is in there in terms of like cannons and rockets and stuff, and also, how the double rooms were laid out and where the kitchen was and stuff like that. I like that mundane button up against the grand kind of thing. And I also just love like a playset, like a toy playset, like a Tracy Island or something. So just getting to design something like that where you can kind of imagine all the characters moving around and living. That's kind of like all the stuff I want to do.
It kind of reminds me, I don't know if this will translate over to our American counterpart to watch the show, but it reminds me a lot of the Haynes manuals. Do you remember those?
No, I sort of think I do know what you're talking about.
So a Haynes manual for those who are my age. So back in the 70s, when everyone thought they could fix their own cars, you used to get these books called Haynes manuals.
No, I do.
Haynes was the guy that created the books, and what it was on the cover would be the picture of the car, whether it be your Ford Fiesta or your Vauxhall, whatever it was, and it would be cut away so you could see like where the suspension arm hit the track rod edge, hit whatever, and then you'd open up the book and there'd be all that sort of stuff. It's a kind of a precursor to some of the more scientific things. I think Star Wars has done one with the Millennium Falcon broken down. So I get it. It reminds me of that. Yes, I'm that old.
Yeah, there's a lot of Japanese, like all the like. There's ones of Godzilla that show his organs and stuff. There's ones like Astro Boy that show how he works, and definitely 100% that is what I was thinking of when I was doing that. I just wanted to combine that stuff with like a floor plan, essentially, so you could have fun with it, but also kind of figure out how they lived, so that the more interior stuff of the story made sense. So trying to do two things at once.
No, cool. I'm like, so the arms here, is these some sleeping quarters there in the arms?
No, those are missiles.
Those are missiles at the top.
If you go left, those are the green ones are the VIP rooms. So you can see there's like a bath. There's some. Then the orange ones to the left are like the slums almost. It's like this where everyone's been crammed into these small rooms. Then the lower levels are you can see there's a bar there, and then
Okay.
later on in the book, that arm does come into play. I won't say how,
Okay.
but
Good.
that layout
Good.
is important.
Cool. Interesting. It's such the level of detail, and this kind of goes back to my earlier question. You know, writing it's one thing, and then you've got to draw all this, and you've got to make sure the details are right to make the humor work. How do you stay so disciplined to get through that whole process? Because I imagine if it was me, if I hit the letters, by the time I hit the letters, I'd be like, you know what, I'm sick. I am
Yeah.
sick. I am done.
Well, the reason I was just looking around. Wait there. I do have
Okay.
it. Hang on, I do have it. So I made like a few of these.
Hang on, let's make your picture big so everyone can see.
So
Look
that's
at that.
every page in the book, and this is just for the finishes. So I would cross them out. I think you can see there's a key. So that's when they're ink lettered, colored. So I had this above my workstation for like 2 years. So I would know exactly what needed to be done and how I could do it. And I had a lot of spreadsheets and stuff. So that, like a practical level, that's how I stayed on top of it. And then, creatively, I always try and do something for me and for the reader, kind of like each page should have something of value in it, so like a joke or a nice little action beat or something. I don't want any page to just sit as I'm sure I did at some point, but like just sit as a bit of exposition with nothing going on, so I think that you can avoid the creative problem then of having dead pages that you don't want to draw. Try and put as much in each page as you can and have fun with each page.
Each panel has that its own uniqueness. Excellent. I like that. That's a really good call. Really good call. Cool. Right, we're going to take a break from one of our other shows before we have a look at some more pages and see some of the guffaws that happen in Hotelier. We've mentioned manga already, and we mentioned some Japanese influences on there. This isn't the same as that, but it's damn sight close. It is time for K-Pop Cosmos. Check it out. There you have it, K-Pop Cosmos with Freya and Marky Mark. I should say the lovely Freya. Freya has promised me more fishnets on that show, so there you go. It's once a month. I get what you can, I guess. K-pop, man. I look at it. I've said this before on many shows. It look like dancing Power Rangers to me. I am just like that.
Sounds good to me.
What is going on? All right, let's get back to Hotelier. Here we have some more kind of sell page, maybe just kind of give it a little bit of explanation of what's going on. You see the robot's got his like little focus or the knee joints connected to the whichever mechanic point, and so on and so forth. It looks like a true work of art, obviously, but it's one of those things that seems like you've put so much effort into this to make this work.
Oh, cheers. Yeah, it's almost obsession levels, but yeah, again, I just love a diagram and I love a way to, I work in animation as well as comics.
Okay.
So I don't ever want to just put a comic out that's just like a storyboard for animation, like I want to do stuff that I can't do in animation in comics and like vice versa. So I love stuff like this. I love like all like Chris Ware graphic novels and the more like iconographic ways to use the comics medium. So, and I like to use, they use those things for proper means. I just like to do it to be stupid and to have jokes.
So I'm going to ask a question, and there's an obvious answer, so please don't, berate me for asking this. Obviously, animation and comic books are different. One's movement, one's still, one can be 3D, one can be 2D. How difficult is it working across mediums?
I think some people find it really hard. I like it because it gives me a little break from one or the other. Like along for a lot of my comics career, I was working full time in animation and doing comics in the evening, so it was really nice to, you work really collaboratively. I can't talk. Collaboratively in animation and comics. If you do them the way I do them, you're doing them on your own essentially in your spare room. So
Mm-hmm.
it's nice if you're working with other people all day to come back and do something that is just for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then vice versa. While I was doing this was kind of my main project, so I was working alone all day, and then I had some short films I was directing, and then I got to work with some other artists, and that was like a nice break to be like, okay, I can actually talk to people and talk to other artists and not go like fully insane on my own in my office.
I'm sure there are panels of insaneness in this book
Yeah, I
somewhere.
think it's one of them there. Yeah, I can see it.
Hang on then. You can't say that and then let me go. Hang on. I've closed that down. Where was it? Which one was it? It was. I can't find it now. I've closed it.
Well, I think the thing with that page is that I pitched the book like if you know
There
6
it is.
months before I started writing it, so I drew some of the pages beforehand, and then I had to redraw them once I went into proper production. So like part of the insanity of that page is you did the obsessive thing of drawing it once, and then it's even worse to like have to draw it again. So I drew that twice, and once is enough.
Do you draw digitally or are you pencils?
Yeah, I wish I was pencils. I draw all digitally because I'm faster doing it. I'm not very clean, in terms of like my
Yeah.
desk is a mess. It would be a mess if I had to like I'd be
Well,
smudging.
I don't know what that doesn't sound so bad actually. If you had to draw it once, you had to draw it again. If it's digital, it's just cut and paste, right? Or am I just
It was
being
the wrong
annoying?
size. It was the wrong size.
See,
It was all
uh,
wrong, so I had to redraw it. Yeah.
it's always size. Size matters apparently. Got to go
Especially
with
with a
that.
book like this, there's a lot of scale involved.
Talking of scale, ta-da!
Hey, there we go. I'm happy. I
It's like
like
we,
that.
it's like we planned that. We really didn't. We really
I'm
didn't.
happy with that page. That's like a homage that no one else will get, but I kind of love this. I talk about manga all the time, man. I do like American comics as well. I don't know why I'm talking about manga all the time, but
It's the influence. It's fine when
it's an
you think
influence.
giant robot. Unless you're talking Batman in his robot suit, you're pretty much
That's
you
true,
know
yeah.
him or Iron Man, and that's it. You're kind of like you know you
But
know.
there's a guy called Yumez. He goes by one name now. He used to go by Kazuo Umezu, and he did a lot of Viz, the manga publisher, put a lot of his books recently, going through like a renaissance.
Mhm.
And like his best book is called The Drifting Classroom, which is about all these kids who get stuck in this futuristic wasteland and they don't know what to do. There's elements of the book that are a little bit like that. But in the 70s, he did like a Ultraman adaptation, and some of the panels of Ultraman like growing to full size look insane, like the proportion. Like I kind of,
Mm,
so I based that picture of Hotelier coming out of the ground on some of that stuff, but I kind of
mm,
made it a bit more normal because some of the ways he was drawing those arms are amazing, but I don't think I get away with them.
mm.
But yeah, I'm happy with that page. I think I like
And it
that
works.
image.
Yeah, it works. I like it a lot. Very. I mentioned Power Rangers, but it has that kind of when the Megazord comes together and you just look up at the thing. Yeah. So obviously the influences from across the board.
I
Very
like
nice.
that look in those things as well. Obviously, of like the buildings are quite simple because they're made of like polystyrene or whatever. So they might be they're made of tiny cement.
Yeah,
No,
there we
yeah.
are.
So I don't draw in a like incredible detail or something. So I thought that's like playing to my strength. Like my buildings look like they're made of polystyrene because I can't be bothered to draw enough lines on them to make them look real.
You mentioned you liked American comics, not just the manga equivalents. What sort of stuff are you reading right now?
So my reading has sort of fallen away. I'm working on another book right now, like a kids thing. So I'm drawing loads. So like when I'm in like a period of like intense drawing, I don't get to read as much. I've reread New X-Men
the Grant Morrison stuff.
I miss Noma because it's so old now. Yeah, yeah, Grant Morrison. I still love it. I loved it when it came out. I still love it. You know,
You Youngins make me, you annoy me so much. Oh yeah, new X-Men, and I'm like the Grant Morrison stuff. Oh yeah, when I was younger, dude. When I was young, it was like Claremont. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. Woo!
I would have been 10 when that came out.
Stop talking.
So I read that not too long ago. You know, I reread like the Gerard Way Doom Patrol to figure out pop comics a little bit for this. I thought maybe that would be helpful. I like that sort of thing.
I've got a bunch of the Grant Morrison X-Men books I didn't read the first time around. There was a period of time I was out of comics and I didn't read it. And I've picked them up on the. I'm not gonna lie, I picked them up on the cheap. So I was like, we'll go with that. You know, I am a huge fan of Scott and Emma as opposed to Scott and Jean.
Oh yeah. Well, there we go then.
So that's kind of my. Don't get me wrong, I like Scott and Jean, but I think you want. Where in books in a series like that, in the X-Men, where nothing changes and the Magneto's always the bad guy, or is he? And the Professor's always the good guy, or is he? Then I think sometimes you can get away with that change by changing up the relationship. You know,
yeah.
And I remember reading the Fantastic Four when I was a kid and reading Sue Richards. We've gone through a breakup for a little bit whilst they were dealing with Franklin and stuff. And I thought that made Reed interesting for the first time in years, you know, because he realizes...
Is that reviled now when people look back on it?
I don't know. I think so. I think it is. It's a little bit, how dare you break up the team? Yeah. But that made it interesting because it was like, you know, as you said about the angsty stuff at the start of the show, you can't be like agreeing all the time, right? And
yeah.
I think when Morrison took over the X-Men and then gave different relationships to different people, I think it worked really well.
Oh, well, actually, just thinking about, I was about to say I love those jackets, but I've just realized I kind of ripped the jackets off as well for Hotelier. Like, I was thinking about Ultraman, Ultra 7. They've got really cool uniforms, you know, when they become a team. But then I stuck a big H on the front of the jackets, and I just realized that's exactly what he did on those X-Men jackets. So, yeah, there you go, ripped it off. I really loved, when I was a kid, I loved the Clone Saga thing that everyone hates. I probably should hate it, but I just remember loving it. The Spider-Man thing.
The Clone. Oh, right, the Clone Saga. Leave.
I just was like 8, and I just remember thinking, oh, yeah.
Doors that way. That's it. End of the show. See you later.
I love John Romita Jr. Art and Junior, John Romita Jr.
All right, yeah. All right, okay, Junior. I've never heard of it that way. I'm with you on this. I had bought the Amazing Spider-Man book that's come out most recently because of John Romita Jr. But the stories just took a.
Oh, really? I'm not reading. I've got a pull list, but I haven't read anything new for a while. I need to get out of my cave and actually read some stuff.
It's you can't read stuff, you'll nick it.
That's true, yeah. It's been shown. Yeah.
I'm joking, of course. But it's interesting. That is an interesting problem for people who are in animation and in comic books or in geek culture and enjoy geek culture themselves. People, who was it? Was it Mitch Gerards? It was someone who put Twitter last year somewhere. Stop sending me. Danny Coates, maybe. Danny Coates. Stop sending me unsolicited scripts, because if I look at them and I read them and I use them, you're going to hit me up for suing me for stuff. Stop sending me scripts.
That's fair enough. I just get the thing of like, I'm starting to read a book and then I'll just think about my book and then I'll just start drawing and I need to like turn off. So I'm playing a lot of video games at the moment, but I will come back to it once I finish this book.
Do you find that because you work in comics and animation that you take a more analytical approach to comics and to animation? I used to play American football back in the day. So now when I watch a ball game, I can't just sit and relax the ball. I'm watching the line and what they do and how the game's going to play and all that sort of stuff. Is it the same for you?
Yeah. Definitely with comics more for some reason. I don't know, but like you see someone's figured out a really good way to do something, or you know, like a really mad panel layout.
Mhm.
And luckily, you know, a lot of the stuff that I see is stuff I would never want to do or never could do. So
Yeah.
it's not a case of like, oh, I'm too influenced by this. It's just more like you go like, whoa, that's amazing, and then I just want to start doing my own stuff immediately.
Mm.
It's hard to like disconnect then and enjoy a story just as
Mm.
like you know, film is easier. Like I kind of get lost in stuff. Video
Mm.
games I get lost in, but yeah, comics is a bit harder because I'm always looking at like how the page was made.
Yeah, I feel like I write reviews for Comic Crusaders, our sister website, and when I sit down to read my comics for me, for my fun, I find it hard sometimes to sit back and just kind of, immerse
Yeah.
myself. But,
So like what was really good, I went to like I put out a short film last year and I went to a festival like last week to screen it, and I saw a lot of the other short films that were in like competition and stuff.
Mhm.
And the stuff that I really liked was the stuff that like was had no bearing on what I was doing whatsoever. So I
Oh,
was
cool.
like a comedy with plot and stuff. So when you go and
Yeah,
watch something that's all like um imagery and like it's quite poetic and maybe it's wordless, you know, and quite abstract. I would never want to do that, or I never
yeah,
would do it. But just because it's so out of the world of like what I'm doing, I could like really easily like enjoy that stuff and get lost in it.
yeah. That's a great shout. That is a great shout, definitely. I'm still going to watch baseball. Right, tomorrow. The action scenes we talked about earlier, the ones that are kind of pushing a little bit. You've got some. So I'm going to ask a question. This is a logistic thing, so apologies for this. So when they're having the fight
Hmm.
here, where are the guests? Are they
Ah,
stood in there like cocooned off or
so
something?
in the previous page, it was only a quick nod, but see that he's got that little V-shaped thing on his chest.
Uh huh.
So that was a window, but the shutters have come down now. They're blue instead of like pale
Um,
blue. So there's a metal shutter there. They're all in the chest and the sort of midsection, and there's like 4 or 5 workers that are in the head. No, 3 workers are in the head, and
mhm.
nobody's in the arms because the arms are just like escape pod chutes and stuff. So there are little bits where I do a bit of Star Trek where the hotel falls over and I have to put a little bit of like gyroscopic dampeners enabled, you know, to
Uh,
make sure make sure they can be still stood upright, you
yeah.
know, sci-fi
There's
wise.
your dampeners to full.
Yeah, it makes no sense, but I had to do it just to like let myself
Uh,
off.
oh man,
Yeah.
I love a good bit of techno babble. Love it.
I think it's in the next page probably. Yeah,
Is it? Oh, what page is
it
that?
might
That's
be. It might be.
19. Uh,
But yeah,
I
these
got
action scenes were like, you know, I wanted to push the boat out a little bit in terms of what, because my last comic was a wrestling comic, so there was some
yeah,
action in that, but it was mainly set backstage, so you'd see the action sort of through like monitors and stuff.
yeah.
So with this, I wanted to try and get it a bit. There we go, horizontal mode initialized. But
Hashtag stand on your feet, dude.
yeah. So it was a mix of wanting to do some dynamic action, but also, you know, some of the like it's a bit highfalutin, but a lot of the story is about like our main characters are coming out of sort of childhood and they're like teenage years where things might have been a little bit more fun, and they're entering the adult world of like quite boring, scary stuff, you know. And
Real.
the robot as like a metaphor for that, as like you playing with robot figures when I was a kid, that's like the most joyous thing I could imagine. Um, so
That,
I wanted to make these fights feel like action figures getting like bashed together a little bit, you know.
all
So they're
right.
not really like there's no kung fu moves really. They're kind of quite clunky and they're just smacking each other back and forth a lot.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's my
yeah.
vibe.
Yeah, I get it because I remember the first wave of Star Wars figures, and there was like, do you count the neck? Do you count the head? We'll count the head as one.
Yeah, they
One,
don't count.
two, three. So there's only that many pieces of articulation. The head
Yeah.
would turn, 2 arms would move, and the legs would move, and that was it.
And a missile could maybe shoot out of Boba. Oh no, he
Sorry?
wasn't, was he? He wasn't allowed to have him.
No, it
He
wasn't.
got recalled, yeah.
Yeah, because of the missile thing. Yeah, the now you buy a McFarlane figure, and it's got like 67 points of articulation. Crazy.
Yeah, I'm not drawing 67 points of articulation.
I don't
I'll
know.
draw five.
I think you should hit Todd McFarlane up and say, dude, why
Oh
not?
well, I am. That is the dream. I would love to make one of these. I know how now. I've learned some things about how to make toys and stuff. I would love to make a big Hotelier.
Well, I've seen some of the giant Funko Pop things you can get now.
Mm,
That would look the bomb. It would look
let's
the
do
bomb.
it. Hit me up,
And just
Funko.
think, You'll be you'll be able to put them on your website. There you
Oh, there
go.
we go. Good
Yeah,
segue.
yeah, nice. It's like it's not my first rodeo. Um, love the comic book tote bag. I think that's class. Love
Oh,
that.
nice.
I like that a lot. This is your wrestling book.
Yeah,
Are
so
you a
that
are you a wrestling fan? Are you a
I'm a
WWE kind of fan of yesteryear or not?
yeah, all those. I was probably like you were saying with comics where you fell off X-Men when you were a teenager. Like I was a
Yeah.
WWF fan as a kid, and I stopped when I was a teenager, and then kind of got back into it when I was in my early 20s, watching like a lot of Japanese wrestling and like weird independent wrestling that would happen
Mhm.
like in Cardiff and the surrounding areas. So that's where that book comes from. So I've got that here.
Hang on, hang fire. Don't. I can't do everything. 2 seconds. Let me-
There we
there you
go.
go.
Glorious Wrestling Alliance Ultimate Championship Edition. So that's like my first big book.
Very good.
And that was self-published for years, and then Graphic Universe picked it up to put into like a color collection. And then
Cool.
the other thing you pointed out on the website was this card game that I made
Oh,
based on
that's
the.
yes, yes.
And I'm a big game nerd. You can probably tell from the books. I like thinking in like game imagery and stuff. Yeah. So, but I got no programming skill, So like
All right.
to
Okay.
to design something that is playable and interactive and fun. That was like a big dream. So that was like a passion project I did with like a studio in Caerphilly called Tinkerbot
Okay.
Games. I loved doing that.
Cool. Cool. Card games are all the rage right now. To be honest.
Yeah, I really love card games. They're great little social. Oh, you're going to delve into how poorly designed my website is. I did this
Well,
myself.
that's fine.
There we go. So that's the film Spectre of the Bear that I just took to the festival. So
Uh,
that's written by Johan Morris, who also makes comics. He did. He's a writer and a cartoonist and a musician. He did a lot of the soundtracks for the Big Finish Doctor Who audiobooks.
all right. Okay. Cool.
He wrote this film and scored it, and we made a little animated conspiracy comedy with Bill Nye in it and Craig
The
Roberts.
Bill. The Bill Nye.
The Bill. Well, my accent, people think I'm saying talking about the science guy, but it's not him. It's
No,
the
it's
real one,
it's
the good one,
it's it's what it's from Love Actually. Bill
the
Nye.
legit. Yeah, from Shaun
The
of the Dead.
yeah.
Well, from
Oh.
Spectre of the Bear. Now that's what people will say. But
Yeah,
yeah, Bill Nye.
that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that must be that's very impressive.
I loved that. Yeah, we met him. We recorded. He was a pro. It was perfect.
I loved him in the episode with Vincent Van Gogh in Doctor Who when he was the
At
museum
the end.
creator. Such an understated performance when because yeah, you're dealing with Amy's emotion of what happened, but then you're dealing with him sort of like looking at it from his point of view, and it's just a piece of history to him, and but then he gets the passion of it as well. So
Yeah, he was such a
really
nice guy
appreciate it.
and so good. He like nailed all his lines so quickly and really understood it. Yeah, he was amazing.
My kid when he was little, if he said he liked food, I'd say, "Oh, do you like a pizza?" He'd go, "Yeah, nom nom." And,
Yeah, there you go. This is the film for him.
and yeah, I hate that phrase now.
Good. Those crisps are the villain of the film. So yeah, there we go.
Yay!
Yeah,
No. So super talented,
thank
super
you.
talented. Where can people get a hold of Hotelier? I still say it now.
Hotelier. So it's going to be out in bookshops and in comic shops. In America, you can get it on May the 7th in bookshops
Cool.
and on May the 8th in any local comic shop. If you ask your comic shop to order it, or they might have one already. In the UK, bookshops will take a little while because of how distribution works over here.
Mm-hmm.
But comic shops will have it on like May the 8th, May the 9th. So you ask your local comic shop again and they'll get it for you. The best place to get it in the UK is Gosh Comics in London. I'm signing a bunch of like sketch cards for them to have, and I'm doing a sign in there on May the 14th, and they'll have a load of copies. So that in the UK, that's the best place. In the
Okay.
US or elsewhere, go wherever you like to find comics. And if you're in Canada, specifically Toronto, I will be at the Toronto Comic Art Festival on I think May 10th to May 11th, and I'll have
Cool.
books there, and I'll sign them, and I'll be bringing card games and little toys I've made and stuff, and stickers and all sorts.
Are you going to Thought Bubble this year?
And I will be at Thought Bubble as well in November. Yes, are you going to
But
go?
Yeah.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I'll see you there then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, man. I'm a
How
free
have we
pass
not
kind
seen
of
each
guy.
other then? Because I've been there for like 5 years on the head.
Right, so I'll tell you my thought bubble story. So funny. So I got free passes. So we got there as it's opening up in the morning on the Saturday, and the queue's immense. Like I'm talking immense. So I said to my wife, "You hang here at our place because we don't lose our place. I'll go to the front, see if I can get the tickets or whatnot." So I walked all the way down, 10 minutes down this line to get to the front. Get to the front and say, "Yeah, I'm Johnny Machine Hughes from Comic Crusaders." "Oh, yeah, there's your tickets. Great, 2 passes." Woo! Text my wife. I rang my wife. "Yeah, I've got the passes. Come on down." She said, "Okay, I'm on my way." And she's talking to me on the phone, and she was, "I'm walking past all these people, and they're all giving me daggers because I'm going into the front of the queue." I was like, "You're just going to the front of the queue, man. We're going straight in." She was like, "Oh." So, yeah. I was there last time. Yeah, Harrogate. Yeah,
You need a
Harrogate one.
VIP moment. It bolsters the soul, makes you feel good about
Definitely.
yourself for a bit, and then something terrible happens, and you can come back down to earth.
No, it was great. I walked in, and like the first thing I saw were about 3 or 4 different creators who I'd interviewed on the show. And they're like,
Lovely. There we
"Machine!" I was
go.
like, "Hey!"
You're the
Look at
man.
me.
You're
I
like
was I was a star. About
like
5
Brando in The
seconds.
Godfather.
Yeah, maybe not that good. You're on socials, so there you
Yeah,
go. The Insta and the Twitter. Yes, I'm still calling it Twitter. No, I'm never going to call it X. So just get rid of it. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? It's the way it is. There you go at Josh Hicks at Josh Hicks. Sorry. So there you go. Perfect.
amazing.
Josh, we're running out of time, so give us your 60-second approach as to why someone should go and check out Hotelier.
If you've ever worked in a job you didn't like, if you've ever worried about maybe having to get a job you didn't like, if you've ever had a boss you didn't like, you wanted to punch them with a big robot, if you've ever had a passing interest in a big robot, or if you've just, you want something that takes roughly 70 minutes to read and you've got a gap in the schedule and you don't know what to pick, then choose Hotelier. I've timed it. It's about 70, a tight 70 if you read fast like I do.
All right, cool. I might take a 75 if you want to look at the visual humor, right?
Yeah, you want to slow down a little bit on the diagrams, yeah, give it 75.
Oh man, Josh, it's been an absolute blast having you on the show, man. Thank
I've
you
loved
so
it.
much.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks so much for having me.
No, you're more than welcome. Thank you for being a fantastic guest. I've really enjoyed talking to you. The book looks a bunch of fun.
Oh,
A
thank you.
bunch of fun. So
Well, I'll see you in
congratulations.
Thought Bubble and you can, let me know.
I will. I will there. You let me
Perfect.
know which hall you're in, and I am so there.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll have a drink at the party. All
Yeah.
right, cool. Well, thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Right. That's it for the show. Don't forget to check out UCPM for all your favorite shows. Saw the trailer for it earlier. It was the K-pop Cosmos. If, like me, you like comics of a certain age, you can check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. And for all you Marvel fans who are raving about the X-Men 97, the No Price podcast is due to make its return after a brief break. Josh, all I can say again, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
No worries. I've been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes, and as always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.